Story of my generation has really been the story of the rise of the modern personal computer. I grew up in the 80s when uh, people that were maybe just a little bit older than me were first really starting to get introduced to the PC. Like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are only like maybe a decade and a half ahead of me in terms of age, and for that reason, my growing up was really the rise of the personal computer. When I was a kid, I grew up with a computer in my house. Most prominently, I remember my IBM PC Junior, which was just like this little boxy thing that still used like little floppy disks about this size, and was the first time I really got to use a mouse and the like. When I was in school, they were still using typewriters as a method of teaching keyboarding skills, which is what it's more commonly used at now. And as I grew up, we eventually started to use computers more prominently. We had last had a computer lab in my high school, and at around the time of high school was the first beginnings of the real infancy of using computers as a tool for communication. I actually participated in what was called at the time a bulletin board system, using my like little 28.8 baud modem to connect directly through the phone line with my friend's computer, where I would type in basic information and communicate with people that way. It wasn't until I got to university that I really got to see email and interactivity on that scale with computers. And of course, like when I was in school, cell phones were not really a thing. It wasn't until I actually started working as a teacher that I even had a pager, and it wasn't until I got to about about 3 years into my teaching career that I even had a cell phone. But I did at that point decide to start using an iPhone, which was a really big deal at the time. They were kind of the hip thing. It was still early in the days of cell phones, and I got kind of sucked in by the marketing. And because of that, I ended up, nowadays, I actually do tend to use an awful lot of Apple products. Those of you that have been following along in the Cal controversy conversations are aware that I tend to that I have some interest there, and in fact, because I currently run the school podcast, I'm doing an awful lot of work, and I'm recording this on a Mac right now. But I've been kind of pulled into that side of the whole Mac versus PC side of the market. But what you guys are going to be looking at this week is you're going to be talking about and looking at the sort of two big giants of the digital age in terms of trying to understand the modern revolution in communication that has come as a result of the rise of the personal computer. Looking at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, two of the sort of patriarchs of of modern computing. Now, it is true that we're talking about two dudes, and that's just one of the realities of this. It's actually true that computer programming for a very long time was was something that a lot of women are very prominent in the history. But when it comes to the rise of the personal computer, we're very much dealing with the work of a lot of these early adopters, and of which Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were very prominent. So I want you to take a look at the content in the site. I want you to start looking into these two men, and your next assignment is going to be about trying to get into the headspace of these central figures of modern digital age computing. So take a look. Remember that you're going to want to be catching up, because I know a number of you are still behind. And again, welcome to the new people. I will by the end of this week, we're going to be moving on to Unit 2, so you're going to want to get yourselves caught up. So have a good week, and I'll talk to you in a couple days.